Hey everybody, Goosebumps for Dummies here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Teacher's Pet, the Goosebumps episode adaptation of the short story from Tales to Give Goosebumps Book 1. This one right here. And this episode aired in May of 1998, and was the final episode, I believe, of Season 3 of the original Goosebumps series. So, the reason this was saved, I'm assuming, for the final episode was kind of as a memorial towards Michelle Racine, who, dressing the elf in the room now, died before this episode aired. She passed away in December of the prior year. Michelle plays the lead in this episode, and if you're wondering how Michelle passed away, it is because of meningitis. Pretty freaking tragic, and I hope the family is doing well nowadays. And also rest in peace towards Richard McMillan, who played the villainous episode and Spidey in Sage Season Die. He passed away about a decade or so ago. Rest in peace to those two actors. I think they did a great job here and in all the stuff that I've seen in. And yeah, let's just move forward now. This episode is one I don't look very fondly on as a Goosebumps piece. I didn't watch it very much when I was younger, so that puts in perspective. I didn't gravitate to this one much. And even rewatching, I see why. It's probably the least interesting of possibly the whole show. It's pretty basic. But is it any good? Let's find out. And now for the blurb.
At first, Becca is psyched when her science class goes on an overnight nature retreat. But soon, she wonders whether she'll survive wildlife camp or become a snake snack.
Thank you, Alex. That was wonderful. Anyways, this episode, based off Teacher's Pet from the original Tales book, is a very unfaithful adaptation. It takes a lot of liberties by removing the school setting and making Mr. Blankenship not as much a regular teacher, more of a scientist, I guess, for this. And does this version work? Is this a really solid episode? Not really, but I do think it's not exactly bad either. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to call this one a very, very safe mid. Yeah, it's not that bad. I don't think it's a bad episode. It's not very interesting. Some things I do think this episode does really well are some pretty basic things that you mostly get done well in Goosebumps. Like the soundtrack. The soundtrack's pretty good, and cinematography as well. I think there's good camera work. There's even a sequence in here that's a direct reference to Evil Dead, which, no cool points for that really, because whatever. But I think that's interesting. There's nice camera work in general. And the acting was all pretty good all around. Standard Goosebumps acting, I'd say. Nothing bad, like noticeably nothing noticeably fantastic either. Though I do think the easy highlight is our usual highlight character, that being Mr. Blankenship. This dude's a freaking weirdo who's obsessed with animals and snakes, and by the end of the episode you realize, through some decent, monologuing, just nice acting moment, that he's crossbreeding animals, and in fact is a crossbreed between a man and a snake, and it's fucking weird. We'll get into some of that stuff later. Yeah, I think that reveal is well done too, and Mr. Blankenship as a character is just nice and weird. He's just a nice, really weird character, and I enjoyed every second he was on screen. And from a conceptual standpoint, there are things that just kind of sound cooler on paper that are good ideas, like the crossbreeding stuff. It is kind of cool, and there's some better moments with it, like the really fast snake, even if it's, obviously low budget, you only get mostly POV shots when it's super fast. Evil Dead references again. You get the screaming worms, which I don't know what they're bred with. Of course, Mr. Blankenship being a snake and a human, that's a good idea. And other stuff. I think there's just good ideas here, except not the best execution. And now going into negatives, I think one thing this one's really weak at is, outside of just plot, fucking effects, dude. This is probably some of the worst I've seen in the whole Goosebumps series. I don't think it goes... I don't think it needs to say anything. I mean, the bunny, whenever that's on screen with the lizard face, looks like shit. Mr. Blankenship turning to a snake looks like shit. The ending shot of the fly, which I even put on the thumbnail, looks like shit. kind of awful, Some really bad effects here, I think, that are some of the worst of the entire Goosebumps series. Really bad. I also think the plot is one of the weakest of the series. It's not very interesting outside of the crossbreeding stuff when it is revealed. It's just that there's a creepy cabin out there, and there's some weird looking animals that don't bring up too much intrigue. It's just kind of a boring episode, I'd say, at the end of the day. Not, like, mind-numbingly so. Just, again, of all Goosebumps episodes, you're way better off picking basically 80% of the show over this, I'd say. So, yeah, it's not the most interesting plot. And I think the horror of this one was there's ideas that work with the crossbreeding shit. Sorry I keep saying that. It sounds gross. Again, the execution kind of sucks, and you could chalk that up to effects once again. But the horror itself is like a snake. A snake again with Mr. Blankenship. Just some of it is not very good. Not a lot of the best horror I've seen for Goosebumps. A lot of this episode is not very scary. I think the scariest thing would be the snake, I guess, again. That or the lizard-faced bunny, which obviously isn't even a threat, just looks creepy. Yeah, so not the most enticingly terrifying episode of the series, bar none. And the ending sucks. I mean, it's, again, chalked up to effects, but why? Even conceptually, it's bad. Mr. Blankenship has a fly. It's just, I mean, it's goofy. I think it adds nice levity, but the execution is so bad, and the idea wasn't even that great. You could have made him like anything else, too. Why a fly? Whatever. It's not a very good ending. I think it's pretty rough. But how does the episode fare up overall? Well, I've been pretty 50-50 on it, so I think I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, straight to the rating. This is a 5 out of 10 episode of me. It's super mid. Not bad, not good. So it just falls in that realm of, yeah, it exists. Don't recommend it much. Not an offensive episode. Way better picks out there. On the fright meter, I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 5. Again, not very scary. The horror elements are pretty weak. Unless you find snakes terrifying, which, yeah, pretty scary, especially since super fast snake, and I think that's probably the most intense scene of the whole episode. Some of the effects kind of bring down that horror. It's just so awful to look at, and some scenes, or most of the scenes in this episode, just don't strike a lot of fear. Of course, this is all for goofs, just reminding y'all, this does not affect how I feel about the episode. The episode's still a 5 out of 10. And with that in mind, 5 out of 10, it's going to get a very light, shruggy, disapproved. Not worth your time. It's just a thing that exists. Better picks out there once again. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode review. Tell me what you think about Teacher's Pet down below. Rest in peace, Michelle Ricci, and rest in peace, Richard McMillan. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.